What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. And what a great day yesterday turned out to be. We are currently joint top of the Premier League, and look, admittedly, it's only until Manchester City to travel to Chelsea. And I'm not saying that Chelsea can't beat Manchester City, but yeah, look, it is what it is. They are a mega team. They're doing far better than I expected this season, and they are going to be the pace setters. But they have lost this season as well. In fact, they've lost once more than we have. So I'm really hopeful this season. I do think that we're going to build on it. But what I really want to talk about is yesterday's match against Burnley. And going into it, what a result we had. Wolves, in the 97th minute, scoring a winner to sink Tottenham to their second defeat in a row. Massive injury problems. I think we can all start to see that top four would be a great achievement for this Tottenham side, and they have some very tricky fixtures coming up. Honestly, I probably cheered louder when that 97th minute goal went in against Spurs than I did for any of ours. But that's because their fans have been so irritating. And what a joyous week it's been watching them lose that clown fest against Chelsea and then yesterday capitulating the way they did, whilst we have gone on and had a really good result against Sevilla. But really, I want to talk about our game against Burnley, because there's that moment just before kick-off where you think, oh, fantastic, we'll beat these. And then you start to realise you still have to beat these. You know, the cliche that there are no easy games in the Premier League may not be true with a couple of teams. Certainly, Man United beating Luton was expected, and no matter how badly Man United are playing at the moment, you do fancy you're going to win the game at home against Luton. Although, talk to Liverpool about them as an away fixture. So, going into the game against Burnley, I wasn't worried, and then I started to get a little bit more anxious. I think we controlled the game brilliantly. We obviously feel tilt and possession for those of us who are stats driven. All good, but it wasn't really until Trossard bravely put the goal in the back of the neck, almost at great cost to himself, that my calmness kicked in. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, really. There have been murmurings that Trossard doesn't play well when he starts. There's been question marks over whether you start Eddie Nketiah and bring Trossard on. Yesterday, I think we saw definitively that of the two players, Trossard is absolutely the player to be the deputy to Jesus. It's not just his interchange on the left with Martinelli that improves and brings him into the game more, but it's also this flourishing relationship with Bukayo Saka. And one of the reasons I think that is because Trossard drifts more to the left, it leaves more space on the right. In yesterday's game, what we saw was far less congestion in that right-hand side, more creativity, and Bukayo Saka nearly scored an absolute beauty in the first half. So for me, the question is over. Eddie Nketiah is our third choice striker. Jesus, if we can get him playing fit for the rest of the season, would be fantastic. But isn't it great to know that you've got a player with a keen eye for goal and arguably our best finisher as deputy to Jesus? Quite easy, conceivably, Trossard might be our best ever January signing. But point two that I really want to talk about is our other January signing from last season, which is Jorginho. As captain, he brings a stability and a calmness. I know that whilst he's been skipper, we've had the red card to Fabio yesterday. I'm going to get to that. And, of course, we had Havertz's reckless challenge. But at Newcastle, a game which, of course, we didn't create enough chances in, but we looked so composed, and it really took that highly controversial goal, which I don't want to talk about anymore, for Newcastle to pip us to it. Against Sevilla and against Burnley yesterday, Jorginho, real captain's performance, and something that I think mustn't go unnoticed. He is absolutely the pivotal reason why we stay as composed and as calm as we do. And I'm thrilled that we have him in our team. Just how he plays when Martin Odegaard's fit, Declan Rice is fit, and maybe Thomas Partey, I don't know. Something to look at another time. But certainly Jorginho as a captain was a real high point for me yesterday. But to come back to that Fabio Viera red card, I have to say it, I'm actually done with Fabio Viera now. I have really got no more time to see him in an Arsenal shirt. And if there is a high point of him getting sent off, it is the fact that he's suspended for the next 3 matches. And we're going to have to figure out how to play without him. Obviously, he cost us a fair chunk of change. And Arteta has shown in the past that he doesn't want to drop players, particularly, Willian and Kai Havertz seem to be in that mould of players he doesn't want to give up on. But for Fabio Viera, he had one good performance this season coming on against Fulham where he created 2 goals. He obviously got the charity clarity penalty in the game against Sheffield United again when he came on and we'd already won the game. But I think it's not just that he's too lightweight, he lacks a little bit of desire and he lacks the ability to impose himself on a Premier League game. And he has now had almost a season and a half to do that. So I'm sorry to say it, and if you're a big Fabio Viera fan, I want to hear from you. But as far as I'm concerned, the best thing that could happen would be if we sell him or loan him in January. Then the next thing I want to talk about is Zinchenko and Declan Rice. Now, obviously, Zinchenko's Karate Kid goal was a highlight of the season so far, and I love his determination. I love his spirit, but you can't get away from the fact that he leaves us vulnerable at the back on the left, and he did last season. But this season, there's been a couple of games where it's been even more telling, and I think part of the reason for this is that him and Declan Rice are not quite clicking in the middle together. Obviously, Zinchenko likes to come into that midfield position on the left-hand side. Declan Rice has been playing there. It's a position relatively new to Declan Rice, but what we saw with Granit Xhaka was that when Zinny came into the midfield, he knew that Xhaka could cover him at left back, and Declan Rice just hasn't been doing that. So there is an argument here for me to look at it and say, do you just play Declan Rice in his strongest position as a 6 and try Zinny in the middle of the park? Because all of the things we love about his game come from his position in midfield, and the things we're not so keen on are his left back frailty, his full back. As a fullback, I don't think he's quite up to the levels. Obviously, Arteta works with him in training every day. Obviously, Arteta is far more tactically aware than I am. I'm ready to say I could be wrong, and we do look more defensively stable this season. But for me, yesterday showed yet again that they're kind of playing in each other's position too much. We were far better spread across the pitch, but we were playing mostly in Burnley's, almost entirely in Burnley's half. So you would expect a little bit more congestion. But for me, I think it would be really great, particularly with Fabio Viera out now. Martin Odegaard perhaps not fully fit, although we have the international break for him to recuperate in. But wouldn't it be great just to try Zinny at that left 8 with Declan Rice as a 6 and Odegaard in that sort of 10 position, that right 8. Finally, I want to address something that I think we all feel, which is that we are not creative as much. We are not. And finally, I want to address something that certainly a lot of the fans feel, and that is that we're just not as creative going forward. There's been a lot of talk on AFTV about fluidity, that we don't seem as competent. Certainly we're more defensively stable, and that's where championships are built from. Certainly we suffocate games in a way that we weren't doing. We're less gung-ho and we have less flair about us this season. But when you look at it, we've now scored 26 goals in 12 games. And if you extrapolate that over to the end of the season, we end on about 82, which is only 6 short of where we were last season, but with a better defensive record. Now, we do have some games coming up which could be goal gluts for us. And if they are, we might be level. And so this might just feel like we're not clicking, but actually we have had some tough games. Personally, I'm not so worried about us scoring fewer goals this season if we concede fewer goals like we did. I mean, remember last season fell apart because of the game against Southampton, conceding 2 goals to West Ham, conceding 2 goals to Liverpool, and the games like Bournemouth where we had to come back and win it at the death. Personally, I'm not worried about our fluidity or our creativity. I'm far more interested in us being incredibly difficult to beat, which is what we're showing. I mean, as I said earlier, Man City have lost more often than us. There are no undefeated teams. There are no teams that are going to do the invincible this season. And I'm really thrilled about it. So, my 5 points are: 1, Trossard's better than Eddie. Surprise, surprise. 2, Jorginho's a fantastic stand-in skipper, and I know Declan Rice is the potential captain for the future, but right now his experience, his stability, and his calmness is transferred throughout the team and has led to some really strong defensive performances. 3, Fabio Viera is not for me. I don't think he's ever going to be a player that I'm excited to see in the team sheet. And much as I love everyone who's ever put on an Arsenal shirt, I want to see him do well elsewhere now. 4, Zinchenko and Declan Rice not quite clicking. I'd love to see Zinchenko in that left 8 midfield position. And finally, are we as creative as last season? I would say statistically and using the eye test, probably no. But we've sacrificed some of that verve and flair for defensive stability and strength. that we haven't seen in quite a few years at Arsenal. And in no small part because we have players like Saliba, and whatever you think of David Raya and Ramsdale, they're both good keepers. Gabriel looks so great alongside Saliba. Tomiyasu, another game where he comes in and does really well in his preferred right-sided position, but he looks strong. And Kivior, still got a lot to see from him, I would imagine. So overall, the spine of the team looks really solid. Fingers crossed for Chelsea to get something out of the game against Man City. Who knows? VAR might intervene and give Chelsea 3 goals. I don't know. But let me know in the comments if you disagree with any of those 5 points. I'd love to have a debate with you about it. And thank you so much if you've one of the people who've subscribed so far. It means such a lot to me. And if you like this video, don't forget to smash a like. And until I see you again, be lucky and lots of love.